Hi, my name's Wally Conger. I'm here with my associate Ed Ritchie this afternoon to discuss a business trend that we've both noticed in the last 18 to 24 months. We call it multi-track earning, and it's something we both find quite exciting. Let me introduce the two of us before we proceed with the topic at hand. I worked in corporate America for about 15 years, specializing in the communications field for a major oil firm. I left about 2 years ago to pursue other income opportunities. Ed, on the other hand, has been a small business owner and has acted as a consultant to the advertising and marketing industry for more than 20 years now. And more recently, he's added his expertise in those areas to the software industry. Ed, why don't we start with a definition of what we mean by multi-track earning?
Hey, thanks, Wally. It's really an exciting subject, and a real simple definition for multi-track earning would be that it simply means creating income from multiple sources instead of relying on one simple source, such as being a salaried employee. In other words, you've got a chance to draw income, be it residual, short-term or long-term, from many multiple sources instead of being a salaried employee.
Well, I guess the reason we're really talking about this is because the economy has changed so much in just the last maybe 3, 4, 5 years.
Right.
Since the start of the 90s, we've been noticing some major shifts in the global economy, the world economy. I guess the major reason is because we're living in a post-communism type world where capitalism is more and more prevalent. There's more global competition now out there.
Correct.
And there's also you're familiar with this. You haven't really had to work a 9-to-5 job like I did. I was in the corporate world and saw in just the last few years whole layers of middle management wiped out because of mini computerization. You know, the computers are really taking over.
Right.
It's like the old sci-fi movies.
Right. It's been well documented too. There's lots of books written on the subject, many articles in magazines and trade publications, and the ultimate point is that certainly things have changed. You couldn't depend these days on lasting 20 years in a corporation. You can't count on a company taking care of you the way that it used to be. A lot of people refer to it as a paradigm shift, but basically a number of factors have just come together to change the way people do business and how you're going to be employed.
Also, we're in an era now of instant information. You know, with the internet, the marketplace is much more volatile. It's more fast-moving because of things like the internet. Communications are like at the snap of your fingers. You can be in touch with somebody. It used to be a telephone call was the fastest way to get in touch with somebody.
Right.
Now, 24 hours a day, you can get in touch with somebody by email.
People are doing business 24 hours a day, and there's just a lot of forces at play that are just changing how business is done and what a company's commitment is to either its vendors or its employees or anybody else it does business with. So
in other words, we've got to start, as individuals, have to start thinking of new ways of earning money. There's a survey some psychologists ran not too long ago, and what they found was that you could take a rat and place the rat in front of 10 tunnels and put a piece of cheese at the end of one of those tunnels, and the rat would always find that cheese eventually. What people are finding now is that we are, maybe it's not such a good thing, we are different from the rats. Maybe we should be more rat-like, because what we tend to do as individuals is keep looking down the same tunnel over and over again for that piece of cheese or for that job. So people are getting laid off by the score right now, and they immediately dive back down the same tunnels looking for jobs in their same area without pursuing income options.
It just indicates that the rats are a little more better at the rat race than we are. But it's those force of habit and things like that that kind of cause a narrow perception and narrow vision of how to get income and how to get various income streams going, and that's something you have to overcome.
Now, this thing we're talking about, the multi-track earning or relying on multiple streams of income rather than one single stream of income, is kind of a radical mind shift, actually.
For a lot of people.
It's a different way of looking at earning money altogether, isn't it?
It is. There's certainly, a lot of people would look at the changes going on in the employment in the marketplace as being a threat. But every time there's a change like that, a lot of new opportunities open up. And if you take the perception that these are new opportunities going to be created, you can see how that you can gain and how you can exploit these opportunities to your advantage.
It's a major part of it, which I found myself having to go through in the last couple of years, is shifting from an employee mentality to a free agent mentality.
Right.
I'm no longer working for the same people
Mm-hmm.
day after day and punching the clock.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out there trying to find out how I can offer my skills
Mm-hmm.
to sometimes very diverse types of clients.
Right. Yeah.
In the past 2 years, I've done all sorts of communications projects as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to the old days. I edited and produced a in-house magazine that was really strictly a journalism type job.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've done all sorts of different types of writing jobs,
Mm-hmm.
from speech writing to putting together brochures, working more intensely with different types of creative people, photographers, illustrators, that type of thing. Also technical writing, all sorts of things like that. Gotten more into marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to really diversify not so much my skills, but how I apply my skills
Right.
to different areas.
So are you saying that once you stop going to the same office, the same desk, collecting the same paycheck every day, you've broadened your spectrum, right?
Exactly,
Uh-huh.
exactly. I'm not going down the same tunnel
Right. Uh-huh.
day after day. So I've also had to change my thinking in that I see myself as leasing my skills
Mm-hmm.
to clients rather than just being in someone's employ.
Right. Mm-hmm. So instead of a long-term contract where certain things were set basically in stone, that you came to the same thing every day, you found a thing where you're doing more short-term work, more short-term contracting, let's say, and also that you have, changed and adapted to a bunch of new demands put on you, but actually that you put on yourself.
Exactly, exactly. And part of it is it's kind of moving from a linear income mentality, which is like salaried income,
Mm-hmm.
To a ownership income
Right.
mentality.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
I now know exactly how much my time is worth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sitting idle. When I am sitting idle, I know I'm not making any money.
Mm-hmm.
When I am applying myself specifically to certain tasks, I know
Mm-hmm.
that this is how much I'm worth on this type of job or
Right.
that type of job.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes that it fluctuates, depends on how
Mhm.
much demand that particular skill has.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed when in that kind of position, because I've also, in my career also been a salaried employee occasionally, and what that happens when you've got that salary coming in, you tend to manage your time in a certain way. When you know that you're on a specific contract where people are depending on you and that you also maybe have contracted for a certain amount of money to finish that contract, your time becomes much more valuable and you also become much more effective in time management.
Exactly. I think that this all kind of leads into what we were talking about at the beginning here is moving from a mentality of singular income, relying on a singular
Mm-hmm.
income
Mm-hmm.
to multiple streams of income.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, spreading the risk of
Right.
of losing any source of income. I
Mhm.
mean, if you're relying on one single job, one
Mhm.
single source of income, no
One
matter what it is,
paycheck.
even if you have your own business
Mhm.
and you're relying on one source, which is that one single business,
Right.
you are at risk.
Mhm.
When that source dries up, you've got to start all over.
Uh-huh.
And I guess what we're recommending, the trend we're seeing here, is building multiple sources of income for yourself, so that
Mhm.
if one dries up, you can start shifting your reliance on the other ones and maybe replace that missing
Mhm.
source of income with something else down the road. And there's a lot more security, financial
Sure.
security in that.
Yeah, you've seen that happen in so many industries. I mean, real estate would be a good industry. Here's a source where, you're in one particular industry. Your clients are spread out very broad. Anybody in real estate who is a salesperson or a broker in that industry knows they have to have a lot of clients, a lot of listings going at any particular time. Yet at the same time, if the industry dries up as a whole, as it does occasionally, there's fluctuations and cycles in the market, then you could still be at risk. So when you take an attitude of multiple income streaming, then you're looking at maybe being in a number of industries also to spread that risk out, so you're never at a point where you're that vulnerable.
So in other words, you can really be in multiple fields.
Mhm.
You do not have to be locked into any one
Right.
thing. If you've got interests or hobbies or whatever, you could actually be earning some income in those areas. Maybe not a lot. Maybe you earn a couple $100 a month in one area.
Right.
Maybe you earn $2,000-3,000 a month in another area. But still, you can pursue many of your interests and make money doing it. And, it's just a matter of sitting down and evaluating what you know and how you can market it.
Right. If you're a good salesperson in a particular industry, the odds are that you can use those selling skills in another industry also, or that you can kind of leave an industry and be maybe more in retail oriented or something of that nature. There's just so many opportunities available. If you just take those skills, you got to take an inventory of those skills and see where else they can be applied.
Right. Now we were talking before about shifting your mental mindset away from the employee mentality to the free agent mentality. And I found a very good way of doing that is just take a look in the want ads in any newspaper, your local newspaper, and look at the jobs advertised, but don't look at them as jobs. You know, look at them as work to be done, work that's out there.
Right.
And you might even be able to approach some of those potential employers who are looking for employees and offer your services on a contract basis or a part-time basis or whatever.
Freelance.
And it would save them some money maybe, and it would certainly leave your options open to pursue other things as well besides that one job.
There's a lot of benefits to an employer when you offer them that kind of situation.
Right.
They don't have to pay vacation, they don't have to pay employee benefits and things of that nature. And the flip side of the coin is you get some benefits too, and that usually those types of situations offer you short-term a higher salary.
Right, right. Now, before anybody takes the plunge, okay, in this whole idea of multi-track earning, maybe we should talk a little bit about some of the steps they should take right off the bat.
Great.
Such as, what values do you as an individual have, you know, survival-wise? I mean, what things are important to you? Before you quit your job, perhaps you should consider, you know, what things are important to you month to month. You know, food, shelter, your medical bills.
Right.
You've got to really evaluate what are your needs month to month before you just dive into this kind of program.
Yeah, you definitely want to put together a balance sheet and see what your minimums are for survival, so to speak. You don't want to put it that harshly, but what you need to get by month to month, and where there's some room, and also where there's some possibly some opportunity or some slack where you can fit in some new interests and some new possibilities for areas where you want to add some income streams.
You should probably also establish a list of some of your luxury values, so to speak. You know,
right?
I mean, vacations. You know, itemize all that kind of stuff. Figure all that in. Vacations. Whether it's important to you every couple of years to buy a new car. You know, whether you like dining out or eating in or whatever.
Right.
If you like dining out, maybe you're going to have to fiddle with your budget a little bit and figure out how much you're going to need to be earning. Also, I think it's important to decide, because now, let's say you find yourself out of a job, or you have voluntarily left a job to pursue other money-making options. How many days do you really want to work? How many hours a day do you want to work? Do you want to work mornings? Do you want to work afternoons? Do you want to work nights? What kind of income do you really want? You know, and what's important to you? Maybe you want to scale back. Maybe it's important to simplify your lifestyle a little bit.
Those are the kind of questions. And sometimes they take a bit of searching to find. But those kind of questions you want to ask yourself. Just get back to you had one subject there, the vacations, and I am reminded of a good friend of ours that started a scuba vacation service, basically because he liked to scuba dive, and it was somewhat expensive to go on big vacations, so he started organizing these events, getting friends together, handling the hotel reservations, handling a lot of the reservations and things of that nature you have to do for one of these events. And he found that it ended up becoming a business for him, a sideline business. But the important point to consider is he started this from the ground up, basically had no investment, and he started doing it on the side before he quit his other job. And the point of it is he did something in a no-risk way, so he didn't threaten all those other areas that we're just discussing here about his needs to get by on a month and everything. Didn't quit his job before he started this other business. Started doing it on a small scale with friends.
That's probably pretty important to consider. Is keeping in mind the whole no risk aspect.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to just dive out of your job
Right.
into nothing.
Right.
It's probably better to start a couple little sideline businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you've got time to start 1, 2, maybe 3 businesses,
Right.
weekends, evenings, whatever. Maybe act as a consultant, become a freelance writer to a
Mhm.
magazine, that kind of thing, or
Mhm.
the scuba type business,
Mhm.
whatever. Integrate your hobbies into a money-making type of pursuit.
Mm-hmm.
So all those things should be considered before you just dive out of a 9-to-5 job that is your bread and butter.
Right, and it's important to remember that in any kind of endeavor like this, you're going to make mistakes too. You've made mistakes on your 9-to-5 job. Luckily, when you're a salaried person, those things are sort of covered. There's a certain level of tolerance that's normal in any kind of job like that. And in starting a business, there's a certain level of tolerance too, but you don't want to exceed that. So if you start on a small scale, you can afford to make those mistakes without hurting yourself, without going bankrupt, without ruining everything.
We're really talking about evaluating the obstacles you might face in this new quote-unquote job-free
Right.
lifestyle that you'll be pursuing. And I think if you know what those obstacles are ahead of time, and you even write them down,
Right.
and you face up to them, then you're well on the way to conquering any fears you might have about them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a scary notion to just jump into a job-free life.
Sure.
And start relying on multiple streams of income, so to speak.
Yeah, you find that there's more small businesses happening now in America anyway than have ever happened before. There's a lot of this corporate downsizing, but by the same time, there's new small businesses opening all the time. And that's where the real opportunities are.
Right. The secret to this whole thing, I think, that we want to make clear to people is, and we alluded to it a little bit before, is modularity.
Mm-hmm.
That you have services to offer out there that you can market to large corporations, small companies, to individuals,
Right.
whatever. But you're not the entire system. Instead you're a part of that system.
Right.
You don't have to be an employee to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And what you want to do is get to know other people who are pursuing those same types of things you are, that are modular in themselves. For instance, I work most often as a writer and editor. I link myself up with designers, graphic designers, illustrators, photographers, printing houses, and we as a group, as a team, produce projects. Perhaps we work on something for a month, 2 months, and then we finish that project and I move on someplace else. I may be working with another group over here of photographers or somebody.
Now, do you also use those people you've linked up with for leads to new projects?
Absolutely.
And new sources of income?
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, I have acquaintances of mine now who are photographers or illustrators, and they call me periodically and just remind me, hey, I'm out here. If you're doing a writing job for somebody and they're looking for an illustrator, don't forget me. You know? And at the same time, they do the same thing for me. I get calls from people who are looking for copywriters. They need somebody to come in and write a few pages of copy for a recruiting booklet or something. And I'm there for that.
So that's, traditionally you'd call that networking.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
been the catch-all phrase.
Absolutely. That's
for
exactly
that
what
concept.
it is. So you offer, as an individual, your skills, but with your network of people. Your network of contacts, acquaintances, business partners, temporary business partners, you can offer a wide range of goods and services to clients. And and there's no reason, Ed, that you can't get earn a percentage off of what those contacts of yours are earning. This doesn't happen all the time, but there are times when somebody would come to me and say, hey, I need an illustrator, and I just don't know where to find one. And I, being familiar with the project at hand, and then in turn being familiar with the array of illustrators I know and the styles that they're best at, the drawing styles, I can link those two parties together. And there's nothing wrong with earning a percentage. You're acting as almost an agent, bringing those people together.
So you're saying that developing a network can in itself be profitable.
Absolutely.
Right? And here's something where you're strictly selling knowledge, where you have no overhead in a case like that. And that's it's exactly the kind of thing we were talking about, where you're starting to change your attitude and look at the knowledge you've gained in any particular industry as being a source of income in itself.
Yes.
Pure knowledge.
That's right.
Wally, I wanted to get back to a point you mentioned about being modular. A good example of that is my accountant. A lot of people have done business with an accountant. You know you need him for a variety of services. My accountant is a CPA, and of course he does bookkeeping. He does business bookkeeping for my company. But beyond that, of course, he's heavily involved in taxes because that's something that CPAs do, right? And he's also branched off into estate planning. Here's a case where estate planning is done a lot by lawyers, but basically there's a lot of heavy accountant work involved in that, and he's using his knowledge in that area to branch off into what would seem like maybe a bit non-traditional as a source of income streams for accountants, yet he's doing really good in that because he's seen an opportunity there. Beyond that, even further, he's using his knowledge for marketing assessments, for business development, and in a number of industries. So you talked about being at risk from an industry going bad. Well, here's a point where he's been able to spread his risk out, so he's not going to suffer should any one particular industry he's serving suffer a downturn in economics or something like that.
Well, you mentioned, Ed, diversifying your areas a little bit that you market to. In the last year or so, I've gotten away from, although I've still got a foot in it, the journalism type field, that type of writing for company magazines, and have begun to do a lot more in the way of benefits writing, technical writing, those types of things, because those areas are more in demand right now. I still like to do creative journalism type writing, interviewing people about their jobs, this, that, the other, and writing those types of pieces. But there isn't the demand for that like there was right now. But I have been broadening my skills. I'm still writing, I'm still really in the same fields, but I'm just broadening the areas that I market to.
Well, you brought up a key point when somebody is looking to develop income streams, and you said that there wasn't a demand for these, but there is a demand in other areas. You were looking for demand in other areas, right?
Right.
How you were going through a process of maybe through your networks, etc., finding those demands, or how else?
It's just a matter of keeping your eyes and ears open to the trends out there, where things are moving.
Right.
And you begin to notice that as companies downsize and their employee bases are smaller and smaller, that priorities shift in those companies, and they were not focusing as much in the last couple of years on internal communications that were informational in nature about the corporation. They were focusing more on employee benefits, on bottom line type issues,
nuts and bolts,
and nuts and bolts things. And I just had to start shifting the types of writing I was doing. And another thing about this whole modular area is a way of looking at it is that you should be perhaps marketing yourself as an extension of going businesses, rather than joining a business, become an extension of that business. Which perhaps you might want to offer some marketing services to a company. You might want to offer maybe become the mail order arm of a business, that doesn't have a mail order business going right now. I know up in the Central California area, there is a firm that, it's a small business firm that specializes in Cajun spicy sauces and things like that, that started as a retail outlet, and in the last few years has become more and more a mail order outfit, primarily because they've linked themselves up with someone who's a specialist in the mail order area.
They've done some networking.
They've done some networking. They've began to look at the trends out there and how people are doing their buying habits, and changing their marketing methods.
So they're getting another income stream.
That's right. They're getting another income stream, and the fellow who set up their mail order business is probably waltzed away to some other business, and he's helping another business with their mail order end.
And yet he has that customer as part of his network.
Exactly.
And no doubt using them for opportunities.
Right. Another thing is you might become the repair department for a business that doesn't have a repair department.
Mm-hmm.
You know, offer that service to somebody.
So if you were involved in repair in your former line of employment as a salaried person, you can then take that and start offering it freelance as a modular component of other companies and reduce their overhead and give them the opportunity of employing you on a contractual basis.
Right. A friend of mine is investigating, he hasn't begun this yet, but he's investigating the possibility of offering a service to some of these Circuit City type outlets that sell a lot of stereo components and big screen TVs and things. And those companies sell a lot of these products. However, they do not come into a person's home and help them set up their system. And this friend is now pursuing the idea of offering that service to the customers of these outlets, but actually to the outlet itself, saying, "Hey, look, I can be a arm of your business. You'll get a percentage of what I earn on this, and I'll help your customers take the products you sell them and produce a nice home, multimedia room or whatever."
So did he have an attitude of looking for new opportunities in an area that interests him? Was this a hobby, or was he a professional in this industry already?
This is a guy who just enjoyed putting together his own system at home and was always updating new systems.
That's a great example, Wally. I know a software programmer who was a salaried employee of a large corporation, and he went on to a freelance basis, and now what he does is go in and help companies who are computerizing or maybe already have computers, but because software is always being updated, because new business systems are always going in, they need temporary help in just getting their systems going. Be it switching to Windows 95, that's created a lot of opportunities for people. And the point is that he's just going to be in there for a short-term contract. He's going to get people up and running. He's going to use his expertise in that area. It's a very, very much a case of vertical marketing, yet there's constant opportunities out there because of the nature of that industry. But by the same token, he has found an opportunity that takes advantage of the fact that he's no longer working as a salaried employee. He can move from position to position. He's very modular in his approach to that. Yet he's staying within his industry.
Right. Ed, since you mentioned that, I'm working with a client right now who it's a husband and wife team who are computer consultants who have started a new offshoot business in which they are linking up computer programmers with, just as you were talking about, with firms for short-term projects. And they're actually serving as project managers, so to speak. And so a company will come to them and say, "Hey, look, we need this project done in 6 months' time. We want you to come in, bring your own people, and it's not quite a referral business, but they've got a team of freelance programmers out there that they link themselves to, and they bring their team in and work for 6 months and get the job done, and then close up shop and move on to another company."
So they're kind of taking that networking concept we discussed and adding a little more of that, taking some responsibility for the project and employing their skills both internally within the company and externally within their network.
Right. And what they've done is they've added another income source, an income stream to their existing business. And now when they're not so busy doing what they normally do, consulting to a corporation or doing some training, they've got this other area to rely on as well.
Gotcha.
Why don't we carry on with this conversation on side 2 of this tape? We'll talk a little bit about how people can start moving into this new field of multi-track earning.
Yeah, we'll take them right into the specific steps.
Okay, we'll do that on side 2.
Great.
Ed, as we begin the second side of this tape, I think if you were to look back historically, even 100 years in this country, you could have seen this whole trend of multi-track earning developing. Back in the 19th century, I think most Americans probably relied on one career during their entire lifetimes.
Right.
And during most of this century, what we saw were people maybe would have 2-3 careers in the course of their lifetime. What we're seeing now, increasingly, is that people are beginning to pursue 4-5 careers, but they're practicing them simultaneously.
Right.
And that's what's kind of exciting. It's allowing for people to become more diverse, to pursue their interests more specifically in many areas rather than just be locked into one job path. And I think the secret here is that people don't wait to catch this train.
Right.
And jump right on and begin figuring out what 4 or 5 career pursuits they want to follow, and start them right away. Becoming engaged in many earning endeavors rather than just one.
Right. There's just a lot of opportunity right now, and people are really finding themselves the freedom to pursue it.
Right.
And to do that, you really got to, develop a specific plan and start working that plan.
Right. And keep in mind always that you are instead of being a major factor in one field, maybe you should start thinking of yourself as being a minor factor in many fields. Okay, well let's talk now about your average person who might want to pursue this program, this multi-track earning program we've been discussing. How do we start? What do you think?
Well, I think a person should look at taking a number of steps to reach that goal. And the first step I would take is to start expanding your attitude. And we discussed attitude on a previous side of the tape and showing some general areas that you should start looking into. But now let's talk about a specific example of someone who did exactly that and what they got from it. And a person I want to discuss is an associate of mine who is a marketing person at a rather large company, about 150 employees at this company. And one day, president of the company came in to her and told her that they were required by the Air Quality Management Control District to set up an employee carpooling plan. And there are severe financial penalties for not having one of these plans in place if you're a company over 100 employees. And it's a complex thing. It's a lot of companies have been hit by this, and it's totally new. They really don't give you much help. They give you a thing about a book about as thick as a telephone book of rules and regulations, but it's a very difficult task, and it was totally outside of her, current responsibilities within the company. And it was just a very large project. We're talking really about a 3-month project minimum to get something like this up and going and to satisfy all the requirements. Now, under normal circumstances like that, you'd look at that as a distraction from your current responsibilities and your position, and also just in general, it could not be looked at as a positive project, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's just a difficult situation, but she looked at that as an opportunity, because basically what she was searching for new opportunities to use her expertise, and also maybe gaining some new expertise to use in other opportunities, to create more opportunities. So she took this task, which is really outside of her field, and went through a lot of networking, developed a lot of new contacts, had to do a lot of research within the Air Quality Management Board, and basically completed that project, and now had attained a new skill. And basically she'd been paid to learn this new skill. So she had taken something that was not necessarily a positive thing to have done, and ran with it, and created a bunch of new opportunities from it. And by new opportunities, I mean that she had networked within the government, basically, within a large bureaucracy. She knew that there were other companies that had this demand. Now, here you got a person who doesn't have to quit their present job, but can now offer the skills she's learned from this project to other companies. And it's simply with a phone call.
What she did can probably be done by almost anyone systematically. They could sit down and put together, maybe you call it an earning inventory. Let's see. I mean, let's think a bit. What would you list on an earning inventory? I guess the first thing I'd put down would be the things I like to do. That is not necessarily what your associate. She was kind of thrown into that situation. But you could sit down and write a list of the things you like to do, as well as the things that you're good at. And make sure you're not modest about the things you're good at. I know a lot of people kind of minimize the importance of the skills they do have, thinking, oh, anybody can do that, and that's not the case at all.
Right. And you're talking when you say the things you like to do, I would include hobbies in that. You may have a huge area of expertise in a hobby.
Any leisure time activities.
Right.
You know, relate your hobbies and leisure time activities to possible money-making work. You know, there are a lot of things you mentioned before, the scuba diving business, and I think that's a very good example of that. Also, a person might want to start listing as part of their earning inventory their earning tools. There are a lot of things that we have in our possession that we can make money with that we don't think about. For example, for example, a computer. Not everybody has a computer. You can do a lot of things with a computer. You could do online searches for small businesses who are not that familiar with the internet. You could use your computer for desktop publishing jobs. I do a lot of desktop publishing work right now in my area. Outside the computer, if you have a car, think of the things you could do with a car, the small businesses that you could start with your automobile.
Think of the small businesses that have been started: food delivery, in-home service for people who can't get out.
You could, in an election year, you could, in one day, probably make quite a bit of money just driving people to the polls. Also, tools to consider that are right at hand in your home might be your telephone. You could begin working as a telemarketer for small businesses or large businesses. The fact that you even have a home. There's your office. That's your location. You can work right out of your home. You might have a VCR. I have heard of people providing the service of recording soap operas for those people who just don't want to bother every day recording their soaps, and they're working a 9-to-5 job. They've been hooked on General Hospital, One Life to Live, some soap opera, and somebody has started, people have started businesses where they record those soap operas and rent them out or provide them to people at cost.
And everything you've mentioned so far has been no risk, no overhead.
No overhead at all. They've already got the VCR anyway.
You're looking at your assets and finding out how you can get income from them.
You might have a tape duplicating machine at home. You could duplicate tapes for people. You might have a video camera. There's a whole array of areas where you could use that video camera to record weddings. You could record any types of family events or small business company picnics, things like that.
Record-keeping activities might need to be recorded.
Right. Another thing, apart from that you might want to put on your earning inventory would be your credentials. Whatever courses you've taken, workshops you've taken, whatever schooling you've had. That's all stuff that you should note down.
Plus that, if you're taking a look and inventorying these things, the tasks you've already performed in your current employment, people sometimes take it for granted. They don't realize that they've developed certain skills over a period of years, and they've developed certain industry wisdom and knowledge that they, because they do it every day, they don't really realize that there's a lot of opportunity to sell that on a one-time basis or on a contractual basis to other companies within the same industry.
Somebody who sees himself as perhaps a paper shuffler, they go, for 20 years I've worked just in an office environment, and I don't really produce anything. I just shuffle papers, I type up memos, that type of thing. That kind of person might have fabulous negotiating skills that they've developed in that job over the years. They might be valuable to another company because they have learned all sorts of organizational skills that they don't recognize they have.
A lot of management skills, a lot of purchasing skills, a lot of the things that are required to keep a company going day to day. Other companies need. Startup companies need it. So many companies starting up now that don't have access to that knowledge and wisdom.
Absolutely. So where do we go from there? We've done kind of an inventory. What do you think? What do you think we do at that?
Well, we should again refer back to your a step you sort of we talked about on the other side, and your motivation. And you want to really clearly know what you want to get out of this, because that's going to determine how much time you spend. If you want some additional income streams on top of a salary position in the company, then you're not going to be going at it 8 hours a day. You're not going to be spending all your weekends developing this. But if you are looking at it to develop it full time, then you have a whole different course to take on it. So that really helps you focus to know what your motivations are. Would you want a lot of income streams that are going to be a huge increase over your existing salary, or a supplemental to it?
Right. Perhaps it'd be a good idea at this time to make a long list of all the things that you might do. Just do a brainstorming session with yourself or with your spouse or with a friend about, well, maybe I could start this kind of business or that kind of business, no matter how small or how large. Just start making a list of all the things you can do. And then I guess I'd advise you, I'd advise that a person would make the list as long as possible.
I agree.
30, 40, 50 items might be on that list. And then maybe you'd narrow it down to 20. And then narrow it down again, start prioritizing the list, and narrow it down to maybe 10, then maybe 5. But at 5, once you've got it narrowed down to your top 5 areas that you think you can earn money in, I'd advise that they start pursuing all 5 simultaneously and go in 5 directions at once and start diversifying themselves right away.
Right, that's a good way.
Start with the 5 income streams right away.
It's a great way to test which one of them is going to be the most profitable and which one of them is going to be the most productive.
Exactly, and I would guess that within a year you'd probably find, let's say on average, that 3 of those 5, let's say you start with 5, perhaps 3 will fail in the course of a year. But you've still got 2 sources of income that you're working with regularly and that are earning good money for you. I would say at that point you've got those 2 that you launch another 5. Activate another 5 businesses. Go down your list again and get the next 5 that you prioritized and launch 5 more businesses. And another year, 3 of those 5 new ones will fail, but you'll have 2 more. So you have 4 sources of income after 2 years.
Don't forget the knowledge you'll be gaining from those failures. I mean,
absolutely.
That
Which
knowledge
be
is saleable.
It's saleable. It can be applied to the other businesses that are succeeding for you. So you're actually building year by year a base of businesses, of separate income streams. And I wouldn't stop at 4 after a couple of years, 4 successful ones. I'd add another 5 the third year and see if you can get 2 more successes working for you. And I'd say probably 6 separate income streams is a pretty comfortable area to kind of level out at. But you could... I've heard of some people that have got as many as 9, 12 different businesses going. And not all of them are earning the same amounts of money. Somebody may be earning $300 a month in one little business. They may be earning $50 a month in another. But it may be just an hour's work a month in one business. It may be a week's worth of work in another business. They don't all have to have equal weight. And that's the whole point of this multiple income stream idea.
But I think you really touched upon one of the secrets of making this successful, and that's to be consistent and systematic. In other words, to set a plan in motion, to discover, make a list, and narrow it down, start pursuing those things in a consistent and systematic way, month after month, and start measuring them and keep moving on, always with the plan of increasing and changing and replacing. When you talk about making a list of assets and things like that, you should also make a list of who can be in your network. I mean, right now, before you even start in any particular business, you have a network of people that can help you.
In fact, before you even make that list of things you might do, or simultaneously you might make this second list of your network, as you write up your list of all the people you know, and I would recommend that you write a list of everybody you know, relatives, friends, acquaintances, and as you list those people in your network, some new ideas might come to mind. You might know a lot of people out there who have skills you don't have, and they have absolutely no skill at marketing themselves, marketing their own skills. You become almost a catalyst, which you take your contact from your list and link them up with some other person that's on your list or a small business that isn't on your list. And as we mentioned earlier on the other side of this tape, you should be earning a percentage of the money that is made in that transaction.
Sure. Yeah, you're offering a valuable benefit, helping them be more productive and more profitable. I think you're going to find is when you start building that list of network people in your network, and you start talking to them. You mentioned being a catalyst. You're going to see a lot of people we're going to discover that they want to do something like this too, that they've been thinking about doing something like this too, that they've noticed this trend developing, that they noticed the possibility of themselves being laid off or a victim of downsizing. So you create a sort of synergy when you start talking about this area of interest. And you're going to see a lot of new opportunities develop just by developing that network.
Right. You don't have to have the expertise yourself,
Right.
to provide solutions to the problems that individuals or small businesses might be facing. And I guess the trick is to position yourself so that you can solve problems for businesses and people.
That's right.
And bring the right people together to solve those problems. And you're really a solutions catalyst, actually.
Right.
That's what you are. And you should and you can profit from bringing those elements together. So that's great. Where do we stand now? What do you think the next step would be?
Well, we looked at let's say you're successful in going through these steps, that you really broaden your attitude, that you start looking for opportunities. Let's say you're no longer just consider yourself as a salaried employee, but possibly an entrepreneur or a contractor or
Free agent.
A free agent. There you go. And you've built a list of your assets, your physical assets, etc., and you've very broad spectrum of assets, even including your home and your car, stuff you didn't normally think of as being able to produce an income. And then you've made sure that your motivations, you know what they are, you know what your goals are, so that they kind of guide you in which direction you're going to take this and how much time you're going to spend on it. And you've also developed that network we just discussed, which is so valuable. And you've got all these things together, so basically you're at a point where you can use these to guide and develop a plan.
Okay.
Now let's take a look at so what, you get a plan going. Your obvious step is, well, what happens then? How does that work?
Well, how do you find customers?
How do you find customers? That's a good question, and it's certainly one that's it's very easy. One of the assets we list, and I'm certainly is going to be on everybody's list, would be the telephone. Okay, it's as simple as that. There's a no overhead item that you can use, very, very economical, and it's very accessible. And if you've made a list of your particular skills and you've developed a plan that shows where you're going with them, then you can start using that telephone to discover people who might help you.
And your customers might be on your list that you've already made up of
That's
your
right.
contacts.
They might be in your network there. And if not, then maybe there's people in your network can start referring you.
Right. So your customers, you really might begin scouting out your friends, your family, any acquaintances, ex-schoolmates,
Right.
Friends of friends, former associates, neighbors, people you used to work with.
People in various you might have done business with in your current salary position, if that's still where you are.
Right. You might find customers in businesses that you already patronize.
Right.
Right now, almost each morning, I shouldn't say almost each morning, every morning, I spend about 45 minutes to an hour at a coffee house, just reading the paper, catching up with correspondence, that kind of stuff, and also making contacts. There are a lot of business people that hang out at this coffee house every morning, and one of my new acquaintances, new friendships that I've built at the coffee house, he and I have begun discussing, we could really help the owners of this coffee house maximize their profits. They aren't doing this, that, and the other correctly, and they may be a future client of ours. So it's keeping your mind open and keeping your eyes and ears open to these opportunities and potential customers.
And it sounds like you also found an opportunity practically in your own backyard.
Absolutely.
Right?
I think that is key also. Yes, you hear that we're moving into the globalization, the global marketplace, but you don't want to overlook all the opportunities that are right down the street from you. And something you might do is take a walk through your neighborhood, or bicycle through your neighborhood, jog through your neighborhood, and start looking at storefronts. Start looking in even the residential neighborhood you might jog through. How can I service these people? And just keep that type of thing.
Yeah. I've got a great example of a person who found exactly that kind of opportunity in their own neighborhood. This is a person who has a degree in psychology from a state university, has a second degree in paralegal, for lawyers, and basically became a corporate dropout with all those skills, and started looking for new opportunities, something where she didn't want to work in an office anymore, where she wanted to be out of a corporate environment, basically. And she wanted to take advantage of the multiple income streaming that we've been discussing. So she started looking for opportunities in her own neighborhood, and she noticed that basically in residential areas, a lot of people have pets. She enjoyed working with animals, and she'd never done it formally, and she also enjoyed being outside, things like that. And she started looking for ways to start servicing these pet owners in such a way to develop an income stream from that source. And she developed a pet sitting business. Now here's a business that was started basically with no overhead. It cost only the cost of Xeroxing some door hangers. Started on a small scale and basically approached a condominium structure that had about 400 units in it. So there was a small centralized source to take to do a test on with this business. And she basically hit the street. Used kind of a streetwise marketing there, and basically did this one afternoon, put out a couple of hundred flyers, and that evening the phone rang. As simple as that. And basically a person who totally outside of their current business, so just exactly the things we've been describing. Took all these steps, beforehand, and started searching for another income stream to develop.
And as I recall in a previous conversation with you, Ed, she took the business from there and began networking herself with veterinarians.
That's right. Yes.
Other types of similar
other people related,
dog grooming businesses,
right,
that type of thing.
Related to animals and pets, and when you start, there's so many sources of information that are easy to get to. The phone book. That's an obvious choice. Here the person is able to use all the things that you or I or anybody else listening to this tape have at their disposal. Real easy sources of income.
Oh, the yellow pages
Right.
are an incredible source of
Absolutely.
information. You can just browse through the yellow pages and find all sorts of needs and opportunities.
Right, you'll find people there who have a lot of good ideas that are already using them that may need your assistance in some certain area, or you'll find sources for inspiration.
Now, what has she done with the pet sitting business as far as linking up with other similar businesses?
Well, she took a real interesting track of action, and always keeping her eye open for opportunities. In fact, you were talking about being at a coffee shop. Well, one time she happened to be at a coffee shop with an outdoor patio. It was in a pretty large supermarket area where there was a parking lot, etc. And she noticed a person showing another person how to walk their dog. And she went up and started chatting with them about it and found out that the person giving the lesson was a dog trainer, and this was his specialty. And she chatted with him and offered to exchange business cards and said she was looking to build her business. And that evening, she got a call from one of his customers. And she took that idea and thought, gee, well, if I could find all of his customers and offer my services to them, I would be better off. And I can offer him the same trade. So they started networking together and trading each other's customers list. He introduced her to a veterinarian who had a huge customer list, a 500 name customer list. And at that point, she decided, well, why not formalize my approach to them and offer information about my services, the dog trainer services, and the veterinarian services all at once. That way we get that synergy we were talking about developing. And from there are other people, pet groomers. She found a pet groomer who also had the same thing, who also wanted to be networked and joined with these other services. They were all complementary to each other, all in the same basic industry. And the business started growing to where she had developed a 1,500 name database of pet owners that had been all the people that she had networked with had contributed to. And so they were all working off of each other's synergy.
That's phenomenal.
And you talk about a business with no overhead to start this business.
I think that is a major thread that runs through most of this multi-track earning trend. That most of these ideas are low overhead.
Right.
That you can start them on a shoestring and it's a bootstrap operation, and you can begin earning money tomorrow just by producing a few flyers and letting people know, people you meet on the street, or let your family and friends know that, hey, I'm starting this business or this business, and I'd like referrals. I'd like your business, or I'd like the business of people you know.
And you talked about doing it in such a way, starting a number of them and over a period of a year. And I want to make sure people understand that the process I just described took a year to develop fully before that 1,500 name basis. And there were some slow months. You find that pet sitting is something where during the vacation months there's a lot of business. During maybe some winter months where there's not much action right after the holidays, maybe a month goes by where business is very slow. So that's the time to do the more networking and those other tasks that develop. But the point is that she didn't give up.
Right. You've got to be persistent.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons I mentioned that whole notion of a year. I think in a year's time, you probably get a good feel for which of your initial 5 businesses that you launch will be successful. But you've got to give it a year. Be persistent. And people really don't fail. They quit trying.
Right.
But they can succeed in, I think the odds are that you will succeed at least 2 of your initial 5 business attempts. And it's just a matter of keeping at it. At the same time, I think it's probably healthy for you to maintain a small degree of paranoia. And, be realistic and welcome new business wherever and whenever you can find it.
Right, yeah, you should be cautious about what you're doing there and think it through and keep your eyes open for those more opportunities. Getting back to this person who's doing pet sitting, well, you've got a person driving around the city, right, in her car, obviously. It would be going from appointment to appointment. Why not include other tasks in that, such as grocery delivery for seniors or shut-ins or a person who's recovering from illnesses and things like that? And once these people find out you're available and that you're trustworthy, you're going into people's homes when they're not there, etc., that reputation alone becomes a valuable, saleable, merchandisable product.
Exactly. And you mentioned a little bit earlier, Ed, the idea of certain periods of the year, business might be slow around the holidays, or it might be slow, in the summer months.
Most businesses experience.
Exactly. And I think that it really pays to be persistent during those times, stay at it, but at those times when you're really busy, I found this in myself where I've got 3 or 4 or 5 projects going at once. And I go, oh my gosh, I'm swamped. Right. I can't handle all this, and I can't take on any more work. If you maintain a proper sense of paranoia, you should probably take on as much as you can, because it's better to have too much work than too little work.
Right.
And believe me, if you are swamped, you can link yourself up, network yourself to other people, and find people to help you get those projects done.
You can hire a modular person for your project too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Any last thoughts as we wind up here, Ed?
Well, I think that the big picture that we've described here and the steps we've described, if you follow those steps, carry them through, don't give up, and just start, I think that you could just wrap it up by saying you've got to start. You start somewhere, because if you start in a no-risk, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain.
So Ed, I guess the person listening to this tape, as they finish listening to this tape, the first thing they should do is sit down and start inventorying their skills, the types of things they'd be interested in pursuing, the types of businesses they might pursue, and start putting together that list of contacts, the people they know, their friends, family, and they'll be well on their way once they start matching up their interests to those people.
I think they'll really be surprised once you start putting it down on paper and seeing what you've got. People rarely do this. They rarely take an inventory like that. It's so worthwhile.
Well, I guess that just about wraps this session up, and we'll probably be pursuing this subject again at a later time.
Great, Wally.
Okay, Ed, thanks very much.